Hello, good day, good evening, good morning, someplace in the world. One of these greetings is going to land on someone. Welcome to another episode of Talking with WIT, Kevin and Son. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. And through the power of your story, our mission is to uplift through the power of your voice with the everyday person, inspire, share experiences, perspectives using the framework and teaching and learning and modeling. Our purpose is hope, helping other people every day. This episode is the third in a series. We have presidential candidate Sid McNairy sitting in with us. For those of you that has not heard episode 1 or episode 2 of this series, Sid is a best-selling author. He is probably one of the coolest people that I know, has a book out, Search for the Perfect Wave. He is a husband. He is a father. He has spoken in front and motivated and inspired 75,000 people in one sitting. And he's added his name to the list of presidential hopefuls. And today, this episode is special. And the reason why I say it's so special, because it's a conversation that I wasn't prepared to have until Sid and I spoke off camera. And he brought up the fact that when we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. And when I asked what elephant in the room, I know what he was saying. So we are going to discuss to find out if the people are Trump or we're being trumped. It's going to be an open forum. I have a couple of questions to ask, but I'm going to ask this. Sid, why do you want to have a conversation about Donald Trump?
Well, a lot of people ask me, are you Republican? Are you Democrat? And neither is the answer that way. I'm an independent thinker and I move accordingly. And yet what has come up is that I have a lot of friends that are Republican-based people. And a lot of times what confuses me is they hold themselves in regard as moral people. See, for me, I don't have to go very far to know if I'm going to vote for someone or not. The first step for me is going to be, all right, what have I seen that says, is this person worthy to be followed or not? And then I'll go to all the other stuff. For me, it falls on, all right, where's the character now? If something has happened in the past, are they willing to hold themselves accountable for it? Where's the growth and all those different things? And so it's confusing to me. And I want to know, because here I am putting myself into this space that does bring about all things of people's lives. And I'm confused when I think of some of my friends that defend somebody that, first and foremost, I only have to start at one place. And when it wasn't disputed and given a mediocre at best excuse, when he said, grab her in her, and I don't even like saying the word. When that was said and it was blamed on the locker room, first I took offense, because I've been in a lot of locker rooms and so have you. And that's not how we moved in the locker room. That just wasn't it. So to throw, all of a sudden, I got lumped into something that isn't my character trait. And that for me is why I wanted to bring this forward, because I think it's important that as we move forward, we continue to look for someone that allows our children to say, if they end up exemplifying this person, we have a better world. I think that's just important. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation.
All right. Well, a couple of things. When he was first elected into the office, everyone knew what they were getting. There was no surprise. We knew that integrity, character, the truth, moral standards were not part of his vocabulary. Neither were there anything that he would stand on. And I say this because I am one of the casualties of doing business with Donald Trump. So I have personal experience with him. When he said he can walk down Fifth Avenue and shoot someone in broad daylight and get away with it, literally, if you look at the way our Constitution states right now, is that Donald Trump can be indicted, he could be convicted, he can be incarcerated, and he also can be elected president of the United States. And he can also pardon his own self. All right. I don't know how that in our political system that's part of our Constitution. So I'm not surprised. What does surprise me is the same thing that you brought up. There are people that are highly educated, very successful in the business world, respected in their community, and they have decorated their 4x4s, their trucks, and drove around the city and basically said, in 2024, we need to elect this president. They have excused the fact that he has been indicted for tampering with elections. They have excused the fact he has lied and manipulated and stole confidential information and put him into his own private home in Mar-a-Lago. They've excused that. And the biggest thing is like, your eyes don't lie, but they have turned a blind eye to January 6th, the saying that was a media parade in order to defame the character of President Donald Trump. Now, with me saying that, let's go back to January 6th, which is part of the elephant in the room. And I've had this conversation with Republicans and Democrats and so forth. And I've had people that basically said that it did not exist. I also have had the conversation that says that if you and me and about 15,000 other people that look like you and I, if the outcome of that event would have been the same. Now, you may see things different in Florida because the view is different from Florida than it is in Pennsylvania. But I know from my experience in this world that anytime we show up in masses, there's gunfire, and it's not the 4th of July that we're celebrating. So January 6th, connected with Donald Trump, is he held responsible for any of the actions, or is he an innocent party by your terms?
Should he be held responsible for any actions that involve him? Yes. Is he? He doesn't seem to think he will be. Time will only tell on that. And I do agree within this country, innocent until proven guilty. So there is that. Yet I still go back to what I originally said. For me, a leader is somebody worthy to be followed, which means for me, this isn't worthy for me to follow. And I'm pleading with people to recognize that it's time for us to choose a better way, to demand more of our leaders across the board. This isn't about him. This is just, he is the product of the sickness that is running rampant for me. It isn't just about that one person. He's a product of a sickness that has been for decades in this country. It's time for us to right the ship.
Is the sickness the Republican Party that's carrying the virus, the Democratic Party is carrying the the virus, or is it our government that's carrying this virus or the sickness you're talking about? Because right now, the country, we're more divided than we are ever going to be brought together. Each political candidate's talking about uniting the party, the people, and whatever. And I will personally say COVID basically exposed all of us to who we really are. We're never going to be united. As long as our government is being funded by resources that are not representing the everyday person, the government is always going to be divided based on who's backing them and who's lobbying for them. I think you would be in agreement. If not, correct me. But
well, I'd say that idea of never. Remember, my first thing is we are creating our reality all the time.
True.
So I'd first start off with, I want our children to know it is possible for us to have a different way of being. It is possible for us to step into a way that is better for all people, which then means, yes, it's possible for us to do different and be different, and everybody has to do their part. That's what I'll say. So that we actually see, at one point I was being interviewed and somebody put up, they asked the question of people, is peace possible in the world? And almost all of them said no. Well, it's only not possible because those people aren't seeing it. We have to teach the possibility. We have to teach an educated society that gives people the ability to think and say, okay, is this the best way? That's what I see. So I'd have to start there. It is possible.
But you talk about teaching. There are 17 people that have entered their hat on the Republican ticket for 2024. Yeah, I don't know the numbers of the amount of representation of people that are parents that are in the White House and whatever that are teaching. When you look at the fact that the Democratic Party only has 3 people that are running for president 2024, you've got, I don't have to do the math. I do know 17 is greater than 3. So it means that if you put X amount of zeros behind that, and you're talking about how many, the average home has at least 2 children, and you're talking about educating, where's the source of the education coming from when the country is so divided? And the people that are wanting to be president, or the people that are supporting president, and I'll give you an idea. A mother, Carrie Lake, I got this text, this link from you, called the Republican Party, the candidates, to rally behind Donald Trump and drop out of the Republican race so he can be reelected. Again, I'll say this again. Donald Trump.
Now, we know what happened, though. None of them pulled out.
No.
Actually, they doubled down on staying. So,
but I also know, and I hate to cut you off, Donald Trump offended DeSantis' wife publicly, in a debate. And DeSantis, because he went with his political party and not supported his wife, supported Donald Trump. So when I look at that, I'm going, well, until they get together, right now everyone's coming out and they're saying everything the media wants to hear. But we also know that as soon as they get together, there's a whole different conversation when they get together and they want to win, what they're going to say. I don't understand why Donald Trump has so much power.
I don't either, other than there's something behind him that neither one of us know.
Okay, let me ask you this question. If you or I, or any of your neighbors or any of your associates were accused or caught tampering with the election, will we be free to go to our homes tonight?
No. And you know that answer. Heck no.
Well, I'm just saying, because there's some people out there that can't understand why he could fly in on his private jet and fly back out of his private jet after being fingerprint and mugshot and everything else and go back to his mansion in Malargo. And I don't understand. I've always said there is 2 legal systems. It's the legal system as we know it, and then it's the legal system as you and I know it, which just says just us. How are we going to change this when Donald Trump basically has said and proven to people that technically he is above the law and he's going to get away with it? I'm going to tell you, I'll be the first person to say he is going to get away with it. He's already positioned himself with Supreme Court justices that owe him favors. That's the reason why I'm in favor of every political or elected official having a term. There's got to be an expiration date on that chair that you sit in.
Right.
I don't understand. It makes sense of this for me, President candidate McNairy.
Well, I'm going to make sense of it in this way. We've made small incremental shifts over time. In order for us to continue on that path, more people have to demand better. We have to, people have to get out and vote and put people in place that represent what people want. Too many people sit around and are lazy at home, don't believe in the system, blah, 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 and aren't participating. People have to participate no matter where they want things to go. You got to participate, and you have to trust that your vote matters. I mean, I've heard that ever since I was able to vote. Your vote matters. Get out and vote. And so it's important for people to take the time to believe in this country that, man, I remember when I was, when we had like US versus Russia, when that was a big thing back in the 80s, right? And we had
the hockey team.
Yeah, and we had the hockey team. I was proud to be an American. We got to get that back. We got to get that back, which then looks like people being proud to get out and vote and care for one another, proud to go help your neighbor, no matter what color they are, proud to go blah, 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 blah. Like I see these things and it's like people want to debate over this thing that just happened in Alabama of two white guys beating up on a guy, and then black people came to help, and white people, it just became a whole hodgepodge of chaos. And for me, it's like, all right, when are we going to stop blaming it on color and recognize evil actions are evil actions?
Well, that answer is simple. It's easier to pull out the race card than it is to face the truth of saying that two individuals that don't happen to get along or look alike can't get along or can't have an issue. It's easy for us to basically take away someone's livelihood because a certain person has a certain position. Instead of listening to why a person has that position, we cancel them. It happens every single day. Every comedian's gun shy about how to perform. I mean, I just listened to Chris Rock's performance, which was hilarious. Not Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, Philadelphia kid. I'm sorry, Chris. I've seen you perform too. I've actually met you. But anyway, that was hilarious. And the first thing he said is that, he was going to offend some people. I mean, the whole thing about going to a comedy show is to kind of escape from the reality. And sometimes the truth, as much as it hurt, is hilarious when we look at it. But when you look at the fact that when we can't get beyond color, it's because we keep reinforcing the separate of the people. It's easier to separate black and white. It's easier to separate the Hispanic against the blacks. It's easier to separate the Jewish and Chinese and Japanese or whatever case may be. And you know why it's easy? It's because when they want to eliminate you, they know where all of you are at. We're more powerful when we're together. And until the people realize where the power is, it doesn't make a difference if you're Democrat or Republic. The power's got to be returned to the people. So when I talk about this, you're going to be in a position, hopefully, and I'm very proud of you, that you may be on stage in a debate with Donald Trump. Can you hold your own with Donald Trump?
Oh, 100%. For sure.
You do know after he leaves the teleprompter, is it game on, right?
Oh, before the teleprompter, like it is. Have you ever watched him in a debate? This is what he does. It trips me out. It makes me laugh. Not even just in a debate, when he greets another person from another country, he plants his feet and he tries to pull somebody in off their feet. You ain't got me like that. Like I'm a coach. And so I watch things. I watch things different than these politicians watch. They act like, oh, this guy that's been doing this stuff for so long, he's going to change now all of a sudden just because he talked a little bit different. No, I've already seen that guy like that. I've seen that guy all my life, really. Like these bullies that think they deserve everything. No, I've seen that before, and that's not it for me. Like, don't come at me with that. Like, if you want to talk about peace, I don't care who it is. We can talk about it. We can move in that way. If you want to act, no, yes, I'm ready for that. It's kind of a joke to me. Like the way the guy behaves is like a little kid. And I'm not trying to, piss off too many of the people that really support and love him for whatever reason. Yet the truth is, I've seen that kid. That kid has been around a long time, and I'm not playing that kid game.
It amazes me that American citizens that are struggling to pay their rent, car payment, working a 40-hour week that they were hired for, but they're putting in 16 hours and still getting paid for 40 hours, that are paying his legal fees. And, when Donald Trump says, show up and protest and make it difficult, they show up and protest. And some of them have even lost their freedom in support of a man that probably wouldn't even sit down and have dinner with him. In the Republican Party, I mean, I heard this 2 days ago from a Republican, and I had told him about this up and coming interview with you, and that we're going to be talking about Donald Trump next week. We're going to take comments from real people asking you real questions that are real concerns of everyday person. But he just said, we can't have Donald Trump. He says, I'm a registered Republican. We can't have Donald Trump as our next president. No, neither can we have Biden. He's too old, because Biden doesn't make sense. These are his exact words. But he did say that he bought a house in Canada and he built it, and he goes back and forth. He's a U.S. citizen. He now has a home in Canada. He said if Donald Trump gets reelected to president, he will destroy everything that America stands for. The Republican Party will crash. The Democratic Party will crash, and people will lose faith and trust in our United States government. How does that land on you when I say that? When you hear a citizen says that?
Well, it lands as a wake-up call. A wake-up call that even if people are wrong, there's enough people talking about it. And it's not the beginning. It's a playbook. It's a playbook that a regime used in the 1930s. It's a playbook, and it's being run, and it's time for a new playbook. It's time to make sure that playbook doesn't exist anymore. Burning books, getting rid of books, it's the playbook. And for me, I'm watching this a little different than I think a lot of people watch, because the playbook says to me, now I'm just going to put myself in the shoes of wanting to dominate something. When I'm going to dominate our government, I will make it look like these people aren't on my team, because there's probably a hidden snake in that grass right there. That's what I've been looking for. And so for me, I'm glad that your friend has the awareness that we gotta wake up. We gotta look. We gotta protect our democracy. We've got to protect our country, or we lose the country. And it's important for us to do that. And can I say 100% in truth that that's the way that will definitely go? God works miracles all the time. Yet we have to do our own part too. And that's what I would say. I don't want to sit here and say he's guilty till that time comes. And facts are facts. I do think that they ought to allow us all to watch the trial, because it's important for people to see the real things going on. Right now, it's so hidden that the leader of saying everything's fake news has got people believing in fake statements. I never heard fake news until it came out of Donald Trump's mouth.
And that's because Donald Trump supports the fact that my grandfather taught me. You tell a lie to enough or the right people, and they repeat the lie over, the lie becomes the truth. And when you've got a whole news station, Fox News, in your pocket that continuously supports the lie, even though they know the truth, and even know that they have been discovered or uncovered as giving non-factual information that institution is still allowed to broadcast their agenda. Now, if you and I were in business, I have to be honest with you. If we had been found guilty and fined millions and millions of dollars, our business would not exist. But
I agree with that statement. And at the same time, I also look at it as we have First Amendment, freedom of speech, which is tricky because you gotta live with somebody saying something that may not be true.
Our First Amendment is subject to whoever's interpreting the amendment. If I say something on this podcast that whoever is broadcasting this that doesn't agree with, they will cancel me from receiving my podcast. If I say something that's personal that they don't agree with, they'll cancel me altogether. There'll be a group standing outside my door marching and saying I don't have an opinion. You know, I always say education is not designed to make you comfortable. It's designed to make you think. And sometimes asking someone why they feel a certain way or why they have that position is a better education than canceling the conversations at hand. And that goes back to the education that we have in our system right now. They're trying to erase a whole culture in our education system. You know, they call it the woke society or whatever the case may be. And it's being allowed. And it's supported by Donald Trump and his like-minded people. You know, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, she was employed by anybody else, she had been fired. You have an individual that basically lied on his resume that is still going to work every single day like it doesn't even matter. And the only reason they haven't gotten rid of him because they need his vote in order to remain in power as far as a party. Is government really sit for the people?
For a few people.
Yeah, it's for the few people. It's not us, right?
It's not, it is not set for, I don't know, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say the top 10%. And everybody else is not set for. It just isn't. It's set to keep people in line for that top percentage of people. Now, in theory, the Constitution is structured. It wasn't written for all people, but the statement for all people begins to create it in truth that, okay, we got to get rid of. It's no different than when I committed to being peace for the world. Everything that wasn't aligned with peace, Spirit started removing it. My longtime girlfriend that I was engaged to, gone. Move from my house, leave my state. Like I had to get rid of everything that didn't look like peace until I got enough peace in me to actually come back. We have just been it's been a longer journey for all people, being for all people. It's happening. It's happening. We are much further along than some things, even though I know it looks like, you know, we've got more people actually in slavery than back when there was slavery, and it's called the sex trade. There's more people in that. There's $150 billion a year made. Now you tell me how it's not thought of and worked at. That's because that top 10-ish percent is not standing on it. They're not caring enough to stop it because it could be stopped. You could hear commercials about, hey, if you take your $20 as opposed to spending it on a porno and put it to this, we can help people. That is never said. So with all of those things as a factor, it's up to people like myself, like you, and even a few people that are on the Hill and other people that care. It's time for us to speak up, elevate, and hit the tipping point so that we can get this thing going in the right direction. It's just about righting the ship. Right now, the ship is headed to a vortex that's sucking us down like a toilet bowl. And it's time for us to come up. and get out of that pattern. It's just time. It really is time for people to be educated. We have to keep talking. We have to keep showing up. We have to keep staying in people's face. We have to keep helping people know, get out and vote. No, there is a way out of this. We have to care. We used to say something when I was coaching football, and that was we would bring in all these kids from the juvenile detention center. And we'd say, we either help them now or they're going to be the same kids that stick us up at the ATM. It's time for us to help people so that we can have a better tomorrow. We've got to care about, we're only as strong as the weakest link. But if you walk outside of any house in any city, in really any neighborhood, any environment, we got some people that are really down in the dumps. Time for us to care and lift them out of the dumps so we all elevate at the same time.
Well, you do know that's a beautiful statement, but we are in such a me society with selfies, and we can't separate ourselves from our technology and whatever. We can't even walk down the street or cross the street. There's many people walking around, they haven't even looked out. I always say smell the roses. They don't even look up to say hello to you in the morning because they can't get off the social media. Can't wake up without checking, see who got them and how many likes.
Hey man, you need to come visit. You got to come visit so I can just take you and walk you around where people are looking at each other. That's not everywhere. It's not everywhere.
I would like to see that. I would definitely like to see that. But let me ask you a question. And this is personal and it could be professional. Is Sid McNairy, is he capable of restoring trust in our government? And is it a pipe dream or is it reality that we can bring people at least halfway together? I don't think we're ever going to come all the way together, but can we meet in the middle someplace? Is that possible?
Yeah, definitely is possible. You tell me what's not possible I'm going to say this word on this thing, in God's name. What's not possible? God, the God that created everything. I call it the creator. A lot of people call it God. It's easy for people to relate to what I'm saying when I say God. The one that created everything before there was earth, something created it. Is it possible? Yeah, definitely. Will we do it? It's up to us. We've been given that right to choose. Everybody has the right to choose. Is it possible? Yes. It's time for us to learn that there are things that we can do, things that we can say that allow us to move into this place of possibility. And as we look at moving into the place of possibility, I think it's important that we also stop and say, okay, what am I speaking into existence? What am I doing and how am I the one? It's even at a point where I somewhat pause before I let some things come out, because I know most people haven't been educated to know that they are creating their reality. Most people don't. So then we've got to get, from my view, the way that I've shifted. I'm gonna use this one lady as an example. She had two parents. We have two parents. We're just gonna call them red and blue. We have two parents in the government. She had two parents that were both dysfunctional. She hated them for all the things that came into her life, from sexual problems to just not eating, all types of stuff. And yet now she has a different relationship with them. So I know how to walk people through that. I know that every school that I ever coached at were losers. And I'm not saying I was the only one. I just know I was part of the shift, because there were other head coaches there. I was part of the shift that turned those programs into winners. We have the greatest possibility right now, maybe ever in the history of the US, because we have the possibility of turning this thing completely around right now. We have educated people that need to be awakened so that we move accordingly and we create the world we want. Yet we have to start seeing it. It's like people saying, oh, it's not possible for someone to come outside of the party to be the president. Not a true statement. It is very possible. People have to vote. You don't have to look very far. People have to vote and have to care. People have to know. People have to have it in their face, just like they've been putting it in people's thoughts, that there's only two ways. When there were two parties before, there were the Whigs party and there were the Nationalists. Both those parties had presidents. It's not just a two-party system. It's just that we've been relying on two parties. And now is the time that people can learn something different. That's why I want to take a slow process into it. If it happens to go fast, cool. Otherwise, I will win by 2028. That's what I'm saying. At 2028, after I've helped people see that they can see differently, that they can be differently, and we can walk through and create unity everywhere we go, it just is what it is. It's coming. So is it possible to me? Yes. And then when I get there, it is possible for people to be educated on how to come together. You can't tell me that these people that we're saying too old to be in office that we don't even know, they're closer to the end than the beginning. My dad told me that when I was 6 years old. You are closer to being dead than you are to being alive. So all those people are on their way out more so than they are to repeat and be here. So as soon as they go, what makes us think that the children to come aren't ready for something different? They are, especially if they learn it. And that to me is where this all resides. We have to come together. We have to support the people that are putting together movements to create something different, especially if we are looking for something different.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I said this morning, is that I love talking to young people for the simple fact that they have 30 years in front of them. So they can do great things with the opportunities. I don't have that luxury. You and I don't have that luxury. My last question, and I don't know if it's my best question, which you brought it up, you tabled on it already: ageism, sexism in the White House. Is there a certain age that's too old to run for president? Is there gender limitations on who could become president, or how high can you get? Our current vice president, is that the glass ceiling? Or if she decides to run in 2024, which is, not likely, I think she should. Is that possible for us to ever come together and support a female president? And the fact is that you're very popular, at least on my podcast, with the people in the UK. They think you are a breath of fresh air. They think you are closer to the truth, and they really don't give a damn if you had not held a public office. But I'm hoping that people here in America believe in the system, that every American has an opportunity and right to serve in a public office, no matter what the position is, because I believe you are good for this country because you care about this country. I think we both care about this country. I think there's things that we shake our head about every single day that happens to the individuals that are running this country, and we ask ourselves why. But I do believe, and this is me, and hold me accountable for this, as Americans, we need to stop voting in our grandparents into public office. And we need to go ahead and allow someone with a different views and different ideologies in order to go ahead and exercise the right to do what's best for people. We need to return our government back to the people. Did I offend you by anything I said, presidential candidate McNairy?
Offense would look like, did you take me out of my piece? No, I'm not sure that's possible anymore. Yet what I'm going to say is all the isms, I'm not sure that any of them need to be brought forward. Ageism, racism, sexism, genderisms, all the isms can be erased as far as I'm concerned. Now, what I will say is there is an ability that is needed to be president. If someone can pass whatever those tests are, then if they can pass and they can function, yes, they can be president. So am I going to say, do I know that specific age? No. We take away someone's driver's license if they can't function to drive. We don't allow someone to drive if they can't function to drive. I'm just using driving as a barometer. Would you let someone do surgery on you if they're shaking? I wouldn't. So I'm not sure we should let them run the country. Like, we can come up with ways to make sure that we have somebody competent to run the country. And I can't say, I will say this. My father is just now starting to say, hey, man, I don't remember like I used to. He's 86 years old. And I promise you, when at any point in 2020, he could have run circles around them. That's what I know. That's why you said, am I okay to get up on the stage and debate with Donald Trump? Man, I've been debating with my father all my life. So I'm good. And
but you've been debating with someone that has common sense. It's hard to debate with someone that does not have a common sense, that doesn't make sense, and people believing. That's the hard part. That's like debating with a 3-year-old and trying to be right.
well, I think you just, to me, one thing, if I were to look and say, okay, the last time he was up on stage and just bullied the other person on stage, you got to be able to plant your feet and stand up and demand. If you're, I've raised 3-year-olds. Yeah, I know how to work with a 3-year-old.
Well, I do know as a football player, you cannot be bullied when someone tells you at 165 pounds to take this little ball and run through a hole when the guy on the other side is surrounded by two guys that's 265 to 300 pounds, and they said run over him and keep the ball in your hand. So I know you can't be bullied. So you got my vote on that. But you did say one thing, and I wasn't going to bring that up today, is that you just outlined gun control and didn't know it. Because the same thing Australia did, right?
Oh, yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, same thing Australia did. And they put it out there. They said, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to say you can't have a gun. All right, what we are going to say is that you have to register that gun. You have to take a test. You have to, every so many years, be retested. And when you come up to where you're not competent, when you register, you have to bring that gun back in when you take your test and whatever, and they confiscate the gun. Now, if you owned a semi-automatic weapon, the government bought them back and they destroyed them. They said no one should own a machine gun. And they thought that Parliament itself was going to have some issues. 4 years went by and there wasn't a debate. Everyone had their guns and everyone agreed. You know, you have to ask yourself, do you want to be standing at a fire range with Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
Neither one of them, they might shake. And then
I'm just saying, so there is gun control. You know, I say it in joking all the time. If you want gun control, give every minority person a semi-automatic on Monday, Wednesday, there'll be gun control.
Yeah, I agree. I would have to agree that there'd be some quick control of arms.
Yeah. Well, Sid, I'm going to say this is probably 35 minutes of the longest conversation I had about Donald Trump. I will say that I said I would never give him airtime, and they always say never. And I said, because every single time we give him airtime, people realize that he's still alive. I'm not wishing him ill will, but I wouldn't miss him. I won't lie. So I'll say it that way. He doesn't have to die. He just needs to go away. And wherever he goes, I just hope that I was going to say catch and release, but I'm not going to say that. But anyway, I appreciate you having this table, this topic. I'm looking forward to the next interview, the voice of the people. I just say keep on doing what you're doing. I agree with the people in the UK. You are a breath of fresh air. The one thing that I know is that you are honest and you speak the truth. And I think that our president who we have, no matter what his experience or her experience is, we should have someone that we trust and that could be trusted in that position. We don't have to know everything that goes on the White House, but when you speak to us, we should not have to question the conversation you have at hand. And that's one thing I know about you. I never have to second guess the conversation I'm having with you. And for those of you guys that are listening, I'm speaking the truth. Sid, as a personal friend and a person that I know, is that person of peace. He is that person that not only wants to be the voice of the people, but he wants to restore the character of this nation to where that we are a great nation and we are a country that is for the people, by the people, and stand with the people. Sid, before I leave, would you like to say anything to our audience that have been tuning in? Like I said, there's 183 and counting of new people that have subscribed just to listen to you. I have to give you props. I'm not a big numbers person or whatever, but I have to go ahead and say that, you know, you have impacted my viewership. And I always said I wasn't going to do politics and religion, and I'm doing both, talking to you. So what would you like to say to our listeners, people that are on the fence, people that are now slowly becoming fans of yours? I'm going to give you the mic.
Yeah, thank you. And what I'll close with is, at this point, as I continue to walk to what's coming forward, we're at this stage where we need your support, the support for the movement, more so than where it goes, the trajectory of what I know is going to happen. Need your support for the movement. It's time for us to all step into and deliver a way forward, which looks like you can go to artofpeacefulliving.com, you can go to sidmcnairy.com and join in the movement. We need your support. It's going to take each and every person doing their part. And support can look in many ways. Getting people that you know that need the peace program, that need a quest for peace, that need a way to become sustainable in their lives, to find hope for tomorrow. Have them come, have them join. Even if you sponsor somebody, or soon we'll have ways for you to contribute to help people continue to move forward. And that's my biggest request of everyone. Do your part to make the world a better place for the next 7 generations to come. We can have peace on earth. Start believing in it. Start doing it in your own life. Demand it of yourself first. Commit to it right now. Go 24 hours. After you've gone 24 hours, go a week. After you've gone a week, go a month. After you've gone a month, go a year, and keep going until we all have peace on earth. Thank you for listening. I look forward to the next time we come together.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please give peace a chance. If you want to reach Sid McNairy, it's on his social medias at Sid McNairy, McNairy, or look at him at Art of Peaceful Living, or his IG account, Liz McNairy and Sid McNairy. Or you can reach out to us at info@rmkproductions.org. We have covered a lot of information here. We, episode 1, episode 2 of this series, we talked about social issues. We've covered that. Episode 2 got Sid fired up. So we know that, when it gets hot, he fires back. So I know he can hold his own. And I hope this episode 1, 2, or 3, and 4 is coming up. We have enlightened you. We have touched you in a certain way that in your heart and your soul, you do the right thing when you cast your vote, not aligning yourself with a party, but align yourself with humanity over profit. And that's one thing we've got to look for. Again, if you like what you've heard, if you like what you see and want more, go to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page. Like, follow, share. I'm only going to ask you for 2, follow and share. And if you have any questions, like I said, info@rmkproductions.org. Please reach out, ask me questions, comment on the page, share the page. And as always, I appreciate your time. For those of you that are pulling in or out of Starbucks or your favorite little place in the weekend, those busy mothers that are raising the next generation of leaders, you have greatness within you. Those fathers that are present in their children's lives, that are showing as example of what it's not only like to be a man in this world, but be a good human being in this world. And for those that are young people that now have the opportunity to vote, if you want to exercise true power, vote. And with that said, my grandfather always said, when you get to a place where you're going to help someone, reach one, teach one, and we're out. Thank you.